part of the end of the season that I always enjoy is seed saving, which is what we've got a lot of stuff here for. Seed saving dill, which seems kind of ridiculous to be honest, because this is from about 5 or 6 plants, and these are all dill seeds. So enough dill seeds for everyone in Dartmouth to get their own dill plant next year. You can also use this seed as a flavor. You can grind it up in a coffee grinder or a mortar and pestle. You can use it as a spice. This is the dill seed plant here, what it looks like. It smells really nice, and these just fly off. You can just crunch the whole thing up and all the seeds will fall out. And dill's one of those ones, there's a lot of plants that have these tiny, tiny seeds and they just fly all over the garden. And so you get a lot of dill, they call them volunteers, which are dill plants that will show up the next year from wherever a dill plant went to seed and dropped all its seeds. We grew kidney beans this year. So these are some of the beans you let dry out on the plant. They're nice and dry. Once these dry out in the pod all the way, I like to take them out and then I'll dry them out in a paper bag. Keep them in a nice, cool, dry place. If you had enough of these, you could eat them. Just boil them up and then put them in your chilies or whatever. But that's a dry bean that we're seed saving. This is sunflower head. I picked it a little early. You can let this dry out a little more, but you can see all of the sunflower seeds in here. This isn't really an edible variety. The seeds are pretty small. We do have some varieties that you could eat the seeds out of, and I've got them labeled which ones they are, so you can plant them next year. These are a really beautiful variety. These are dark red and brown, kind of maroon sunflower. We'll be able to plant those next year. These are the tops of our walking onions. They're a perennial onion, so they come back every year. They have these really nice early green onions you can use. They also have an onion bulb you can harvest, but if you harvest the bulb, they don't come back every year. But these are the babies that they produce. They'll put up this main stalk, and these grow on the top, and the stalk dies, and then it falls over, and wherever this little cluster lands, these will root into some more onions. That's why they walk around. They basically grow up every year, fall over, and spread around. So, but you can pick these right off of your walking onions, and you can break these apart and toss them in the ground, and you can spread them. Next is our garlic. We actually prepped a bunch of it this week, and it was handed out through our meal distribution program. And you clean it up a little bit. You can get all this kind of nasty stuff off. You can clip off the roots, and then this is good to store for a couple of months. If you have a lot of garlic and you don't know what to do with it, I often will peel it all up, chop it all up, and just put it in a freezer bag, and it's good for in your freezer for a year or more. The other thing we do with our garlic is our bulbs that are like this, nice and big. At the end of October, we'll plant these. So you can just peel them. Don't peel off the final layer of paper, and you can plant these. We like to do it on Halloween because garlic's kind of spooky, keeps the vampires away, etc. That's why I always do. I plant it on Halloween, pointy side up. I usually do half and half. I usually seed save a bunch of my garlic, so save garlic for seed, and then I'll buy half of it from a couple of different places. I like to have a couple of different varieties. You can see this purple and white one here. And a lot different than the garlic from the stores. This has got I find a lot more flavor. These are nasturtium seeds. They're a great little edible flower, or spicy flower, which is really neat. So they're easy to seed save. Where you have nasturtiums, you'll probably have self-seeding nasturtiums. They'll volunteer themselves next year and come up on your own. You can pick them when they're kind of green like this. I had a friend that gave me a bottle of these green ones. So that's what the seeds look like when they're come off the plant. And when you pick them like this, she actually pickled them. And they were like she called them nasturtium capers, and they were really delicious. Well, I'm just gonna run over here really quickly and grab a calendula. These are actually our seeds from last year. So calendula, another edible flower. People use it for a lot of different things. They use salves. I've seen people use them to decorate cupcakes with them. Another really easy seed saver, and wherever you have calendula, you'll probably have some calendula next year. So that's the seeds that are coming off of it. These little weird, they look like little weird worms. And really easy to seed save this. And I know we didn't have a lot of kale this year, but some of our kale that survived the winter from last year, kale is a biennial plant, and it likes to survive a winter, and then it will go to flower. It'll go to seed. But this is what it looks like when it goes to seed. This is also what mustard seed looks like. So kale is a part of the mustard family, or that's related to broccoli and cabbage and all that stuff. Kale, it's one of the easiest plants to seed save. This is what it looks like. These little pods crack right open. Some of them are even spring-loaded. They kind of throw their seeds because that's what they want to do. They want to spread. But I like to have a big bucket, and you just crunch it all up. You can see all the seeds popping out. Now, I call kale and dill and those little tiny seeds the glitter of the garden. If anyone's ever had glitter in their house or something or glitter spill in their house, they'll find glitter for years and years. just in the randomest places. So it's the same thing. I didn't plant this kale plant, it just showed up some weird place on the farm, which means one of the seeds on the back end of a shovel or on a wheel of a wheelbarrow got picked up and dropped off someplace, and the kale plant decided to grow the following season. This is probably kale I've been seed saving every year for probably going on 12 years now. I've seed saved a bunch of different varieties and just keep on planting it and replanting it, and it plants itself. Oh, let's talk about these beauties. So this was something I seed saved last year. So this was a candy roaster seed. So it was a type of squash I got. It's a long pink squash with pointy kind of green ends. And I seed saved those squash. And I thought I was up to snuff on my seed saving and knew what I was doing, but apparently not, because they actually cross-pollinate really easily with their relatives. So the cucumber family, the cucurbit family, melons and zucchinis and cucumbers and squash are all related. They're all kind of cousins of each other. And they cross-pollinate really easily. So these probably cross-pollinated with some kind of pumpkin. And the plants that cross-pollinate, so like the descendants, often look like their parent plants. So this one has a combination of the pink and the point from the candy roaster squash and these stripes, and then it's got the roundness of a pumpkin. A bee probably landed on a pumpkin flower and then came over and landed on the squash flower, and they got to mix in. And then we harvested the squash that looked regular, but the seeds inside the squash were the ones that produced these last year. When you're seed saving this stuff and you get these kind of squash that you don't really know what they are, they can often not have great flavor, and it's kind of a guess every time. So we're gonna let these cure. So I harvest my winter squash, we're gonna let it hang out and dry out for a little bit, and then we're gonna try to roast some of these up and eat them. So I'm probably not gonna seed save these. There's a delicate way of seed saving squash that I've learned now, but didn't have time for it this year now. So these ones are seeds that I didn't seed save and bought from a store or online. So this is a bush delicata squash and a mashed potato squash. And so these were grown right next to these big pink ones. And there might be a chance that if we seed saved the ones from these, that they might be, you know, white and speckled and maybe have a point on them or something. So they mix really easily. Your zucchini can actually mix with your squash. So this is one. You could get squash next year if we seed saved these two together. That would have these speckling and this striping, but be long and skinny, right? These are our blonde cucumbers that we grew. I left some on the vine, and they kind of go way past their prime and kind of this golden brown and orange. And these would be not very edible at all. They'd be very, very bitter. These cucumbers, the cucumber family, they're called cucurbits. They all intermingle, but they do produce a toxin when they do this. If you've ever had a cucumber that is very bitter, or eaten a squash that's very bitter or something like that, or a zucchini, that's that toxin. And it can get to some pretty intense levels. So that was our seed saving tutorial for the season. And now I want to introduce you to the new farm coordinator, Catherine Carey. Give us a big wave.
Hi everyone. So you might remember me from volunteer coordination, and now I am moving outside. So I think I'll actually get to see some of you even more than I have previously. I'm looking forward to it. Bye. Bye everyone.